Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down a really core idea for understanding pretty much any business, how information actually flows, and how it helps an organization think, from the frontline staff all the way to the CEO. So, picture this. University lecturer Dr. Shai Tsaban, who goes by Sheikh, starts his class on information systems with this line. He's making it clear from the get-go. This isn't about learning to click buttons on a specific piece of software. Nope, he's offering something way more powerful, a mental map. So what's his secret? Well, Sheikh's whole method is about building a framework, a really simple but powerful pyramid model. This model helps us see how all these different systems work together to basically form the brain of a company. So let's build this organizational brain, starting right at the foundation.
Okay, so every single organization, I don't care if it's a huge corporation or a tiny startup, starts with the exact same challenge. You've got to record everything that happens every single day. This is the base of our pyramid. This brings us to what's called a transaction processing system, or TPS for short. Its only job is to capture and log every single little event or transaction. You can think of it like the organization's short-term memory. It just records everything as it happens, no questions asked.
And you've seen this a million times, right? When you buy a coffee, the cash register that logs the sale, that's a TPS. When you book a flight online, that's a TPS. These systems are the real workhorses, capturing the raw, nitty-gritty data of the business.
So who's using these systems all day, every day? It's the people on the ground floor, the cashiers, the bank tellers, the warehouse crew. They're the ones on the front lines of the business, feeding all this data into the system.
All right, so we've got a mountain of data, a million sales records, thousands of bookings. But honestly, on its own, all that raw data is just noise. The next level of the pyramid is all about finding the signal in that noise. And this is where the Management Information System, or MIS, steps in. It's kind of like a translator. It takes all that raw, messy data from the TPS and neatly organizes it into useful information, most of the time in the form of reports. And what's really cool here is how the questions change. We're not just asking what happened anymore. Now we're asking, so what does it all mean? And MIS helps answer these regular, structured questions that managers need to run their departments. So who's looking at these reports? Well, this is the world of middle management. We're talking about the sales director, the floor supervisor, the regional manager. They rely on these reports to see how their teams are doing and make those day-to-day decisions that keep the business on track.
But let's be real, not all decisions are about day-to-day stuff. Some decisions are about the entire future of the company, about making a big strategic pivot. And for those, you need a much wider view. So let's climb to the very peak of our pyramid.
Up here, we have the Executive Support System, or ESS. This is where information truly becomes intelligence. And ESS doesn't just look at what's happening inside the company. It's designed to pull in data from the outside world to help leaders see what's coming around the corner. And this, right here, just nails the difference. And MIS helps you do things better. It asks, are we doing things right? But in ESS, it asks a much bigger, much tougher question. Are we doing the right things at all? It's a whole different ballgame.
The data you use tells the whole story. Deciding to hire one more lecturer, that's an operational choice. You look at internal data, like teaching reviews. That's an MIS-level decision. But deciding to open an entire new school of business? Whoa! Now you need to know about market trends, what competitors are doing. That's a huge, long-term strategic move. That's ESS territory.
So yeah, no surprise who uses these tools. We're talking about the senior execs, the C-suite. They're the ones steering the ship, and they need a view that shows them not just their own vessel, but the entire ocean, currents and weather patterns included.
So let's step back for a second and look at the whole thing, the complete information pyramid. You can see the entire journey so clearly here. It all starts at the bottom with the TPS, capturing raw data. That data then flows up to the MIS, where it's transformed into useful information. And finally, it gets to the very top, the ESS, where it's blended with outside data to become true strategic intelligence. Each level needs the one below it to exist. But, all of this brings us right back to where we started, with Sheikh and how he actually teaches this stuff. And it opens up this really fascinating paradox, not about business, but about learning itself.
So get this. On the very first day of class, Shai hands his students this monster, a 129-page document that summarizes the entire course. His goal is noble: lower their anxiety, let them focus on the big ideas, not just scribbling notes.
But, and it's a big but, there's a real tension here. As commentators, and even Shai himself have pointed out, while it's super supportive, maybe it gets in the way of real learning. Because that struggle, that active process of summarizing something for yourself, that's where the magic often happens.
And that leaves us with one last strategic question. Only this one isn't for a company, it's for us, for our own minds. In our quest to make learning more efficient and supportive, is it possible that we're accidentally removing the very struggle that helps us learn in the first place? Definitely something to think about.